We're recapping the games from the Week 5 Sunday slate to see who's the buys, sells, trades, holds for fantasy football going into Week 6. I watched Red Zone. I watched some of the games along with Red Zone, so I'm going to give you my analysis on what I saw on top of the box score. But before we dig in, you need to click that subscribe button right now. Tomorrow, we're covering the next-gen stats. Tuesday, we're going deep on the waiver wire. Wednesday, we're going deep on the waiver wire again. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we're helping you set your lineups with these videos. All between there, we're doing deep dives on the trending players on the waiver wire, guys rising the depth chart, and everything else. Click that button. Stop missing out. First game we're talking about today, Jets and Vikings. I was live streaming while this game was going on, but I was playing in the background on top of showing the game cast, so we were paying attention to it together. However, Sam Darnold, a $179 and a pick. Nick Mullins came in. Ty Chandler had to come in because Aaron Jones got banged up in this matchup, but 30 yards on 14 carries. Justin Jefferson, 6 balls caught, 92 yards. Jordan Addison got a little bit of work off 8 targets. Just 6.6 PPR fantasy points there. But going over to the Jets, because that's where the story's been told. Rodgers got banged up on that play where you saw him crawling around. That made for an interesting meme on Twitter. Breece Hall, Braylon Allen not getting it done on the run game. And then we're looking at the wide receivers. 22 targets to Garrett Wilson and only 101 yards. That is a story in itself. However, if you start him in fantasy, you're feeling pretty good about it. Tyler Conklin, 9 targets, 6 balls caught, 55 yards. He's a tight end 1, probably going to be like a top 5 tight end for the week, at least like top 6 to 8 range. But for Tyler Conklin, that's a lot of work at the tight end position. Lazard caught a touchdown. So fantasy points sprinkled around these pass catchers for the Jets. But this was a fun matchup, and the Vikings are going into Week 6 5-0. Bears and Panthers, and I told you this was going to be an interesting matchup. DeAndre Swift was getting work again. He was also getting targeted in the backfield. He looks explosive. He's always been explosive, and now we're getting that work. 3.5 yards per carry, but he's getting a lot of meaningful touches. Roschon Johnson scored 2 touchdowns. He's getting carries. He's getting opportunities. It's going to add up a little bit here and there. He's a guy to use when you're hurting, when you're in a bind, but not a guy that you really want to use unless something happens to DeAndre Swift. Caleb Williams is getting better. He's a rookie. It's going to take him some time. He's going to be up and down, but he's getting better. It's against the Panthers. Of course, his game script was going to be a little bit wonky. Chuba Hubbard, another good week, though. 13 carries, 97 yards, and a touchdown. Miles Sanders losing even more workload. Xavier Legette got hurt in this game. Jonathan Mingo, 2 catches, 37 yards. Jalen Coker's a guy to pay attention to on this roster for deep leagues, maybe even dynasty as a stash. Deontay Johnson got slept in this game. 6 targets, though, but just 3 catches for 23 yards. However, this one was an interesting game, and Swift looked good. There was a lot of things going on in this offense. DJ Moore went off, 105 yards on 8 targets, 2 touchdowns. Hope you guys started him. Cole Kmet got a little bit of work. 3 catches, 57 yards. Enough to make him like tight end 12-ish for the week. Rome Odunze, 5 catches, 40 yards. The story here, though, DJ Moore going off, DeAndre Swift getting work, Xavier Legette getting hurt, and then Chuba still getting it done. The Bengals and Ravens went into overtime. The Bengals had to lead for most of the game. Lamar Jackson had that touchdown pass over the middle downfield that was impeccable. Derrick Henry exploded for a long run late in the game. 1 touchdown, 92 yards. Derrick Henry's a generational talent. Looking at the wide receivers here, Zay Flowers went off. Zay Flowers melted our face today. 7 catches, 111 yards on 12 targets. He got volume. This game script broke. We were going to say it was a high-scoring game. We said this game script could go either way. We said it was going to be fun nonetheless, and fantasy points was going to be scored, whether it was going to be high or low. I remember saying that. Charlie Kohler went off today for a tight end. A touchdown, 3 balls caught, 64 yards. Prominent prospect coming out of college, actually, but now he's getting some run. We got a carousel effect at the tight end spot for these Ravens tight ends. Mark Andrews scored about 9 fantasy points. Rashad Bateman got a touchdown in this matchup. You're going over to the Bengals side. Jamar Chase went off with 193 yards and 2 touchdowns. T. Higgins is back, got 2 touchdowns, went off. 1 catch for Yoshi. Joe Burrow here, passing for 392 yards, 5 touchdowns, but he had that pick. Chase Brown got a touchdown in the receiving game and also rushed for 46 yards. Zach Moss, 9 carries for 24 yards. Chase Brown starting to get more work. He's more explosive than Zach Moss, and he has more upside per touch. Dolphins, Patriots, and what happened is what we were expected. Just this snooze fest. Ugly for fantasy football. Ramondre Stevenson got a touchdown on 12 carries. Antonio Gibson, 6 carries, 52 yards. The running back split the workload. We were saying downstream, we just did not know how it was going to go, and we did not want to bet on it. And Demario Douglas got 9 targets. He's usually good in most games for a 20% target share, but really not enough production for fantasy football. Enough to make you feel okay, but really not enough for you to feel good about that. Jalen Polk had 1 ball caught for 13 yards, had 6 targets in this matchup, something to pay attention to going forward. Antonio Gibson got 1 target, and Ramondre Stevenson actually caught 4 balls for 3 yards. Going over here to the Dolphins side, Devin Achin went down with an injury, he had a concussion. Jalen Wright stepped in, 6.6 yards per attempt. We got speed to burn. I got to do another you need video on Jalen Wright because he's going to be a hot waiver wire pickup. And then Raheem Mostert, 80 yards in this matchup. You're not betting on the Dolphins, but if you got to make a pickup for touches, Jalen Wright's got a lot of upside with that 4.3 speed. He can really hit the home run on any given touch. He's kind of like a bigger Keaton Mitchell, but not as good. Tyreek Hill, 6 balls caught, 69 yards, so 12-something fantasy points is fine. Jonnu Smith, 5 balls, 62 yards. Okay for fantasy. He's a tight end 1 for the week. Not going to win your week, but he's a tight end 1 for the week. Jalen Waddle, 8.6 points. Not good. You're not starting Waddle in many matchups anymore, and you're not starting many Dolphins. I know a lot of people sat Tyreek Hill. He put up a 12 spot, so that on your bench isn't really going to kill you. Browns versus Commanders. The story here was Deshaun Watson because he was not playing good, and that's all you heard on social media too. And how much longer can the Browns go with bad quarterback play? But I hate to tell you guys, they've been going with bad quarterback play 90% of my lifetime, so they're used to it. So they might go a little longer, Browns fans. Jerome Ford, 47 rushing yards. Foreman, 44 rushing yards. The game script really was not good for the run game, and that's just the bottom line there. Amari Cooper got 10 targets, but 10 fantasy points. You don't like that efficiency. Jerry Jeudy busted in your face. Jordan Akins got a little bit of work because Njoku got hurt, but he got that touchdown for you. Terry McLaurin went off, 112 yards, 4 catches here. Diami Brown got a touchdown as well. He's a good wide receiver. Hasn't been good for fantasy, but he's a very quick, fast, sudden wide receiver to pay attention to. Not really worth the waiver wire claim unless he gets more consistent, but he's always going to be like a good, stout wide receiver for an NFL team. Austin Eckler's back getting some work, and we saw Brian Robinson score 2 touchdowns. Jeremy McNichols got another touchdown on the day, and then Eckler also rushed for 67 yards. They're using all the running backs here. Jaden Daniels, 238 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, also rushing for 82 yards. He has been looking good this season. Colts and Jaguars. This was one of the funnest matchups to watch on the day. Trevor Lawrence started the game off hot and then cooled off a little bit. Joe Flacco had a good run in the back half of the game. Trey Sermon, 10 carries, 38 yards, and a touchdown. So about 11 to 12 fantasy points off of that. Tyler Goodson got some work. You were seeing him get some run in the passing game as well. Alec Pierce went off on that big play. 3 catches, 134 yards, and a touchdown. He's deep ball city. A.D. Mitchell's deep ball city as well, but only 4 catches for 38 yards. Josh Downs got 12 targets. Flacco loves him. He's good to start when you're in a pinch and when Flacco's at quarterback. You're scared of him when he's not at quarterback. And same thing with Michael Pittman. He got you that touchdown, so you're feeling good about that. But on to Tank Bigsby. We got a running back controversy here. He scored 2 touchdowns, 101 yards. Back-to-back games where he outrushed Etienne. Coaching staff is saying in the press conferences that Travis Etienne is going to still be the guy. We'll see once we get the touches next week. They always lie in the media, so you don't know what to trust there. Brian Thomas Jr. is legit. He's the guy. He's the dude. Christian Kirk's losing snaps. He's still getting some workload, though, but you want to be leery on that. But Brian Thomas is the dude. He is elite. Travis Etienne, 6 balls caught, 43 yards, good in the passing game. Gabe Davis and Trevor Lawrence got into a little scuffle on the sideline. I think Trevor Lawrence threw an iPad at Gabe Davis, or maybe it was the other way around. Something to pay attention to. Brenton Strange scored a touchdown. This was a soap opera game. There was a lot going on here. Jaguars got the win. They're 1-4 right now. And it looks like Trevor Lawrence is kind of back on track. Texans, Bills, and this was another fun one. And the big thing that causes concern is Nico Collins left the game with an injury. Still scored a touchdown, but it's like we can't have nice things anymore. Tank Dell, 4 balls caught, 38 yards. Stephon Diggs, 6 catches, 82 yards. He's getting that work. He also had 8 targets in this matchup. Dare Bugawale, 7 targets here. Need to pay attention to him. However, Mixon should be back soon. Cam Akers scored a touchdown. I know a lot of you guys started him. He finally scored for you guys. We were chasing the touches for those fantasy managers that were hurting at running back. You finally got something out of him out of all these 3 weeks. James Cook, 20 carries, 82 yards, and a touchdown. We all knew he was going to get a lot of work. He's always going to get a lot of work. Keon Coleman, 5 targets, 1 catch, 49 yards, and a touchdown. That was a big play, him going off. Can't wait to show off the all 22 of that on Twitter. Dalton Kincaid got a little bit of work, but not much fantasy results. 6 targets, though. Mac Hollins, same thing with 6 targets here. And James Cook getting a little bit of work in the passing game. Looking at the quarterbacks up here, CJ Stroud, 331 yards and a touchdown. Josh Allen took a hit to the dome, but came back in. 1 touchdown, 131 yards. Houston won this matchup 23-20. Raiders and Broncos. And this one hit the over, and the Broncos went off in this matchup. Bo Nix was funny on the sideline yelling at Sean Payton. That was probably my favorite thing I saw this Sunday. But looking solid considering the expectations once he got drafted or during draft season or after even Auburn. Bo Nix has been exceeding expectations this year. Honestly, he can lay the egg the rest of the year. He'd still be exceeding expectations. We got a rushing touchdown. He had a run about a week or so ago that went over 20 miles per hour, so he has the Konami code for some reason. Javonte Williams, 61 rushing yards. Jaleel McLaughlin, 22 rushing yards. On top of that, Javonte Williams, 6 targets. Cortland Sutton, 2 balls caught, 32 yards, 5 targets. I was seeing him a lot on red zone. Troy Franklin sneaking in there. Whenever the Broncos up, Troy Franklin gets more work. I love him as a rookie, a guy to pay attention to for the back half of the season and for next year. After that, you're not getting much run. Again, it's the Broncos. Their MO is defense and not turning the ball over. And when you look at the Raiders here, Gardner Minshew, 2 picks. Aiden O'Connell, a pick. 3 picks total between the two. Amir Dullah's got the pop in the step, scored a touchdown. Looked explosive in this matchup. Alexander Mattison, 38 rushing yards. On top of that, 2 catches for 23 yards. And then Brock Bowers had that big touchdown to start off the game. That was huge. Jacoby Myers got 9 targets. Trey Tucker got 5, but only brought in 2 balls for 18 yards. Like I said, Trey Tucker's good for 5+ targets a game. Whatever happens after that, you let the chips fall where it may. But he got his 5 targets. He got his volume in this matchup. It just didn't hit, but he's going to get 5 targets a game. We're rolling on that. Jacoby Myers led the wide receivers here in targets. Brock Bowers is the man like always. And Alexander Mattison got you like 4 fantasy points here. Then another 3 right here. Amir Dullah has speed to burn. I suggest the Raiders use him a little bit more because he is very explosive in the open field. Niners versus Cardinals. And the Cardinals got up early and made this a game. Kyler Murray had that long run for a touchdown. That was explosive. That really changed the momentum of the game early on. Also looked good in this matchup. Only 195 yards passing and a touchdown, but on the ground, 83 yards and a touchdown. That changed things up, and we knew Marvin Harrison Jr. was highly likely to get shut down in this matchup, and it was either going to be Greg Dortch or Michael Wilson. It ended up being Michael Wilson. He got you okay fantasy production. Trey McBride got you okay fantasy production, but also very good for a tight end. Going over here to the Niners side, Jordan Mason, 89 rushing yards. Decent performance there, but not enough to get it done for you in fantasy. Looking down here, Brandon Ayuk getting work. About time he hit. He was getting a lot of work going forward, he was getting targets. He was getting targets downfield. Eventually, that was going to hit. George Kittle getting a lot of work. Juwan Jennings laid the egg in this matchup. That was bound to happen with Debo, Kittle, and Ayuk back there catching balls. And another thing you want to pay attention here is Garondo's getting work in the run game. Not going to matter much if Christian McCaffrey comes back, but if Mason gets banged up, you're going to want Garondo. James Conner, slow in the first half, strong in the second half, got most of his yards in the second half, averaged 4.5 yards per carry. A solid performance, rushing rise, not great for fantasy. Packers and Rams, and we said this was going to be a fun one. You're going to end up wanting to start a lot of players from this game. Kyren Williams, 102 yards, 1 touchdown, over 20 carries again, getting a lot of workload. Blake Corum got some run here. He looked explosive. He's going to earn more touches. He's going to get more work. If something happens to Kyren Williams, you're going to want Blake Corum. You're going to want Blake Corum. And we saw Jordan Whittington get a lot of work. 7 catches, 89 yards, 10 targets. Tutu Atwell got 10 targets as well. Colby Parkinson got 13. Demarcus Robinson got the touchdown, though, off 5 targets. So, honestly, all 3 of the wide receivers did all right for you in fantasy football if you had to start them because they got the carousel effect when usually one wide receiver will do something and the other ones won't. You got all 3 of them doing something for you in fantasy football. Tucker Kraft, 2 touchdowns. That's huge. Jaden Reed's a beast, 78 yards. Josh Jacobs got 1 catch for 21. Dontavian Wicks missed out on those opportunities with them bad hands, but he's creating separation, getting downfield, looking good in that realm. Just got to bring the ball in. Josh Jacobs, 73 rushing yards and a touchdown, getting that volume. Manny Wilson's getting some run, but not enough for fantasy football purposes. Jordan Love had some YOLO throws in this matchup, 224 yards and 2 touchdowns. Matthew Stafford tried to keep up with the Packers. Packers won, and now they're 3-2 on the season. My biggest whiff on Sunday was this matchup. I had Seattle winning big, and they did not win. It wasn't even really close. Giants were up most of this matchup. Giants looked good. Tyrone Tracy looked good. Daniel Jones, 11 carries, 38 yards. Wan'Dale Robinson got some work here. 6 balls caught, 36 yards on 9 targets. He did get some work. That touchdown helped you for fantasy, kept you alive considering you only got 36 yards. He gets a low average depth of target, so you need touchdowns and a lot of catches for him to rack up fantasy points. Darius Slayton getting the deep ball, got a touchdown in this one. Tyrone Tracy was the man here. He was the story. He was explosive. He looked good. They need to use him going forward. He's a total game changer. Geno Smith, 284 yards and a touchdown. Also 72 rushing yards. So if you start him, those rushing yards carried you over. Kenneth Walker, not much production on the ground because they were playing from behind. So they had to use him in the passing game. Kenneth Walker with the 4.3 speed, you got to use him more in the passing game when you're behind because if he has space, he can go off. That's what they should be doing more. 8 targets in this matchup, 57 yards. Tyler Lockett, 6 targets, 75 yards. DK Metcalf, 4 apiece for 55 yards. Jackson Smith-Njigba got you a touchdown. So honestly, all 3 of the wide receivers got you a little something for fantasy. None of them really went ham, but they got you a little something. Zach Charbonnet got a little bit of work, but nothing for fantasy football. That being said, the story here and what you want to pay attention to is Tyrone Tracy. He should have been picked up off waivers. If not, he's the biggest waiver wire ad going into week 6. He's explosive. That's what we say in the You Need video about him, that he can score in any given touch. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. They should have used him a little bit more in the passing game instead of just 2 targets because he was a former wide receiver. There's a lot of upside with this player. But Tyrone Tracy was always a big stash behind Devin Singletary. We've been saying it in the waiver wire videos. So he's a guy that's a must add if he's on waivers right now. That's the recap for the Sunday games. The buy, sell, holds, trades, the guys who went off, the guys that sucked, and everything else. Let me know who whiffed on you in the comments below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on the way out. One thing for watching. Catch you on the next video.